Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today I want to talk about the story mode Fragment Farming. This is still one of my favorite, in my opinion, one of the best game modes for farming resources outside of something like World Boss Ultimate and World Boss Legend. And I wanted to jump into this one specifically this month because I think the teams are, albeit some of the more expensive ones, and there's some write-ups on Reddit comparing the characters each month and you know how costly they are in terms of being native tier 2, native tier 2, tier 3, etc. But I think the teams this month are some of the best for very quickly farming this content. Like, as you can see, we can get through the entire first wave here with Scarlet Witch, but there are also some notable sort of tricks you can use with certain characters to speed up your farming even more. So I'm gonna have some tips for you guys regarding farming speed, but I also just want to highlight how good this game mode is for farming resources of all kinds, whether it be this one here, the All War, which benefits you if you have a lot of elemental damage or elemental damage dealing characters, drops Uru, drops Odin's blessings. So here what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do 5 4 3 with supergiant, and because she has iframe ignore, because she deals tons of damage, and because she deals iframe ignore, she completely skips the entire Loki fight. So this was one reason why I wanted to make this video. In case you guys are playing with supergiant and you haven't been doing this, do this. Even if you don't have Blue Dragon and Scarlet Witch, it doesn't matter. You can save yourself so much time. So this not only goes for if you're playing with all 3 of the recommended characters, but even if you're not, right? Let's say you just transcended supergiant. Even if you only have one of the 3 characters, you can still go in and play, because with one of the 3 characters, and if nobody dies, you still have a 50% chance. It's a coin flip every single time, again, with just one of the selected bonus characters. And then, so in that case, not that you really needed another reason to build up supergiant, like she's really good already, right? But on top of that, she's very, very good for skipping a lot of the mechanics that would otherwise make these grinds a lot longer. Right, not all of them necessarily, right? There's most of the bosses are just one and done, where you can just one-shot them, but that Loki boss in particular has multiple phases. He actually has 2 phases that he goes through if you fight him normally. Now, some players, just to give you guys some additional tips, some players told me that they were able to skip that anyways with other characters, like for example Rogue, who doesn't have as much burst damage, doesn't have iframe ignore, but they were able to skip it if they swapped the graphics, if they changed the graphics down to, like in the settings menu, if they dropped the graphics down to very low. You have to re-enter the stage for that to take effect, but I was not able to replicate that, so I didn't want to try that in a video and sort of let you guys know, because I'm completely unable to replicate it. But in the case of supergiant, I'm 100% able to replicate it, because it's very, very easy, and it's part of her base kit. You don't have to build up the tier 3. It's just very straightforward, and it pays. I mean, it cuts. Honestly, like that's a 30-second run. I wasn't even counting, but I'm pretty sure it's like a 30-second run. If you don't skip that Loki fight, it's easily double the time. Most of the bosses are like this, where you can just pop off. You can just save your awakening skill or save your tier 3 that you build up during the other phases, and you can just pop off at the end. But it's really fun to me. This game mode is really fun, and I honestly think that the devs should continue to borrow ideas from this game mode. Like, I would love for them to introduce more. I know that sounds crazy, but I would honestly love a 5th story piece here with some other rare item to farm. We have, from left to right, we have CTPs, Awakened ISO, Odin's Blessing, and then premium cards. So we have most of, and then of course tier 3 materials throughout. We have most of the materials here, but I just need to highlight how good this game mode is from the perspective of, like, the design from the perspective of the players, right? Because there's so many things here. You can just switch. There's quite a few tips I wanted to share with you guys, but I didn't know that. I didn't know you can just switch. Well, not after they cast it, but when they're casting, when those little bugger goblins are those booger goblins are casting the little donut shaped, or whatever you're gonna call it, almost circle shaped fire things, you can just switch and it will disappear. Some people say you can just iframe and it'll disappear, but it's much easier to just switch and then you can just rush them and kill them. Makes this so much easier. I actually didn't know that until recently. Yeah, So even though I've been playing this for like 6 months or whatever. So yeah, but this game mode just combines, I think, so many good practices, you know, because characters rotate every month, which some players will see as a cost and will see that it's sort of prohibitive, but it rewards you for building a wide roster, and characters will always make a return later. Except actually Gwenom. Since I transcended Gwenom, she has never appeared again, I believe. But you know, 90% of characters will appear again, so you're gonna get that repeated value. It rotates every month, so even if one month you don't have a lot of the characters, you can just take a break from the farming and come back the next month. It also rewards you passively for building up other characters. There's just so many aspects of this that reward roster building in a way that makes sense, in a way that you can calculate, right? Because sometimes we say things like, oh, like it helps if you build your roster, but you can't really see the way that it helps, or the way that it helps is still very narrow, like something like squad battle, right? Like once I'm out of that league, once I'm out of the gold league, I don't need some of those characters anymore for squad battle, because the restrictions just don't appear again. So saying that squad battle uses more of my roster is kind of artificial. It's not artificial here. It's 100% organic, and I honestly think they need to just do this more often because it's so good. You have other pieces of roster building that are highlighted, like leadership characters. Right here, you've got the choice between Ebony and Professor X because they both provide something of a leadership. If you struggle defensively on the stage, you could even use Jean Grey's debuff leadership because there's lots of freezing and burning mechanics on the stage, right? Especially when you get over to Odin. So there's just lots of aspects of the actual setup before the gameplay that I really like. Not to mention the rewards. The rewards are really good, and I know there is some element of RNG to the rewards, which some people don't like, and I understand that. But the averages have been calculated. Again, you can look up articles. You can look up posts on Reddit where people will have, you know, I opened 50 boxes, I opened 100 boxes. There's a lot more content creators now, like Godzillinator and Commander, who are doing really big openings where they show you guys what it looks like to open 20, 40, 100 of these chests. So in those cases, you can see, not so much to highlight the bad RNG, but you'll see how it's normalized, right? You'll see on average about 1/3 of the time, like for every 3 boxes you open, one of them is going to have a tier 3 material. And the baseline drop for the tier 3 material is 100 of each, which is almost a full day's worth of world boss drops. Now, having to play this, right, having to play basically 12 missions, because I gotta play 1, 2, 3, 4 missions 3 times to guarantee myself 1 day's worth of world boss runs, might not appeal to some players. Honestly, it appeals to me because even when you don't get what you're looking for, like those 2 out of 3 times on average, you're still going to get something useful. In this case, even the worst possible reward, i.e. a Mythic Uru, like Mythic Uru is still pretty valuable, especially if you're newer to the game. And like, you know, because even if you don't get the best rewards, getting the Mythic Uru can be valuable for newer players because you don't have to spend the gold building up like 2-star Uru to 6-star. Like that can be gold expensive. On top of the fact that if you're an intermediate or a veteran player, any non-essential Uru that you get, any of the defense Urus, maybe you don't need any more attack speed because of your cards, or maybe you just don't need skill cooldown or whatever, or you don't need recovery rate, that can all be used during the event to combine to try to get more Odin's blessings. So there's really no bad pull here, right? There's really no bad pull. And then once you start getting into, see, like there's really no bad pull here. It's all good. You know, it's not, to me it is a sexy game mode, but some people might not think it's sexy. They think it's kind of boring, or they think it's very, very time consuming. It is time consuming. I don't know if this game mode would benefit from having autoplay because of some of the environmental effects, especially in some of these stages here. There's really only one autoplay stage, and I know I've shown this to you guys in videos before, but it begs repeating because it's hilarious. It's stage 1-1. Perhaps what the devs could do is they could, you know, look at some of the stages that don't have environmental traps, like those poison, those toxic things that come up and have a circle around them or whatever, and they could implement this where all 3 characters are active, so you can basically not play. Like I know I said it was autoplay. I can literally just leave my phone. Like I could have activated the stage, and Black Dwarf and Mystique will go and fight the boss. It takes a little bit longer at the end because the boss robot will have to crawl to, like, will have to walk towards you, because they end up staying with Daredevil at the beginning of the stage. But it's basically autoplay. I don't know if autoplay is the answer for this game mode for players who think it is too grindy or just takes too long. I don't know if like some special clear ticket is a good answer. That's something that they could add to the pool of rewards. And again, I'm not sure how much players would want that, but essentially they could add an additional drop to these boxes, where every time you open a box, you get a frag. Again, I'm just thinking about this off the top of my head, but every time you open one of these boxes, in addition to the reward that you get a fragment for an all-war clear ticket. And then once you open up, let's say 4 of these boxes, it combines into one of the all-war clear tickets, and then you can use an all-war clear ticket to clear ticket one of the missions. In my opinion, I don't think they should just make them clear ticketable like regular content, because it would just invalidate the reason why. Like, it would just make this too mindless, right? We don't want more clear ticket autoplay clicker simulators, right? We want to engage with this content. This content is really fresh. It's still somewhat challenging. Like, if I'm not paying attention on some of these bosses, especially with some of the teams that they give you, 13-3 with this team, I don't have a good build on these characters except for Mystique. She's got a rage, and even with my Pierce, this is a difficult mission. If I'm not paying attention, I'll show you guys right here. If I'm not paying attention against Thanos, he'll kill me. He'll 100% kill me. So even for someone with a whale account, if you're not given a really stacked team for some of these missions, you're done, right? So you know, on one hand, autoplay doesn't work for this kind of stuff. So it's not a permanent answer. On the other hand, clear tickets are a bad idea because it invalidates what makes these game modes so fun and so unique. Like, you're not going to get this kind of content anywhere else, where I have to engage with the environment to dodge things. So yeah, I don't find this tedious at all. I don't find this boring. You know, you have these like little mini bosses here. Like, I think this is so sick. It's honestly really fun, and I want them to do more of this. Honestly, I feel like this stuff could replace legendary battles as well. Call me crazy, but if they did a little mini story mode for one of the MCU movies, like something like Eternals, that might be a little bit too big to just do a legendary battle for, if they're gonna have all 10 Eternals in the game or whatever, they could do a story mode, right, with four missions. And then they could feature the Eternals characters as the bonus characters in these missions, with, you know, like an increased chance to be chosen. So building up the Eternals and then using them in the Eternal story mode stage is beneficial. So here I've already lost HP before I got to Thanos, but he's terrifying. So I have to switch here. I switched to Dormammu because he's extra slow, so it's extra nail biting. No, because he has a revive. I switched to Dormammu because he has a revive. Even if I make a mistake here, he'll come back to life. If a character dies and has to revive, there's no penalty. Like, it doesn't take away fragments from you. But yeah, this Thanos fight, even with Pierce and all these other, you know, CTP, build up, whatever, this is not easy. It's not. And so I like this a lot, right? This is basically another type of world boss content, right? Here we set up, we try to see, I try to activate my awakening skill right on top of him, because you can finish him here if you have enough damage, if you have enough Pierce. You can sort of make the fight a little bit easier. That was probably the smoothest, or one of the smoothest runs I've ever had with that fight. But you can still see how a couple of mistakes and you're done. And even on the way to Thanos, I almost died because the mobs were doing so much damage. The tornadoes on those stages will ignore any sort of defensive buffs you have. So there's even like unique stage mechanics that we don't find anywhere else. Like, it'll ignore your immunity or your invincibility and just snare you. And then of course you have the effects that they should honestly use more, but they don't. You know, immunity to energy damage. And it doesn't matter if you have penetration. It's still going to be 100% immune. And then of course they have immunity to physical damage as well. And then of course in those all war stages they have immunity to any non-elemental damage, which highlights the importance of building elemental damage characters on your roster for this content specifically. So I just wanted to give a shout out to the story mode Fragment Farming one more time. I know I've made a bunch of videos about this, but I honestly still feel like this is one of the most underrated pieces of content in the game. And it's really only gated, it's really only, you know, held back by the pretty heavy roster requirements. So I acknowledge that new players are not going to be getting a lot of fragments, but even when you don't get fragments, you get tier 3 materials, so you're never left empty-handed. But I think the heavy roster requirements and the heavy time investment are definitely going to be a barrier for a lot of players to do that, to engage in this content a lot. So I wonder sort of out loud what the devs could do to address at least the time sink. Not really sure they're going to address the roster requirements, because that's kind of the point. Like it rewards you for having the roster built, so why would they change that, right? It would sort of betray the point of the game mode. But maybe the time sink could be addressed with some sort of clear ticket option or something like that. So hit me up in the comments down below. Let me know what you think of the story mode Fragment Farming. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Take care.